please join us in welcoming founder and CEO of Cvent, Reggie Aggarwal, in conversation with Skift Meetings Editor-in-Chief, Miguel.
All right. Reggie.
How you doing?
Very good. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us on stage today. So, anybody in the audience heard of this company called Cvent before? Who uses Cvent on the event management side for their events? Can I see you raise your hands? All right, like 30, 40%. What about for sourcing? What about for sourcing your venues? Who uses Cvent there? Okay. All right, you have a few customers in the audience. That's good. Reggie, 25 years, 3 recessions, 2 IPOs, going private twice again. Now with Blackstone, you have 5,000 staff, mainly in the US and India, but all around the world. What an amazing story.
Well,
congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
When you think back at the decisions that you made that made this possible, what do you think really sticks out to you? Was there a key moment that you said, actually, this is what made Cvent make it?
Well, before I start, I just wanted to say a couple things. First, I'm feeling very overdressed here. And I had meetings with Blackstone, so this is kind of the Blackstone uniform you have to wear when you meet with them. No, I'm just joking. But look, there were so many different moments. When you first start a business, there's the moment you first start. I always think that probably the greatest moments are when you grow the most, and you grow the most during the times of most adversity. So if I had to pick probably 2, besides the starting of it, it was in 2001 when we almost went bankrupt. That was a defining moment because a lot of people don't realize this. There are about 500 event registration software companies in 2000, about 500. And I would say 80 to 90% of them went out of business within a couple of years in 2001. And so just to be able to get through that was a defining moment because the whole market not only changed, but you weren't sure if it would work. There's a difference between sometimes when you time the market wrong, but which in this case we thought maybe online registration isn't a thing, and people like to do it manually or we're 5 years ahead. The second time, of course, was during the pandemic. For us, 96% of our revenue came from in-person events like this, and so when everything stopped with the pandemic, for us it was very difficult because we were larger, so it's hard to kind of steer the ship because it just stopped automatically. So those are probably two of the, if I would say, the defining moments, and both the themes is adversity. And during that adversity, that's when you grow the most, you get to know the business the best, and I think that's what really creates, there's a saying that, steel gets forged in fire. And that's what I always believe is
And I've heard you say before, you learn a lot more when you're at the bottom than when you're at the top.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the COVID pandemic. 2020, I think midway through the year, I think June, Cvent Connect online. You went on stage, on the virtual stage, and you said this is the golden age of events. Yeah. I think a few people thought you were a little crazy at that point. Was that just bravado, or did you actually mean it? Did you see a plan coming out of COVID?
Probably a little bit of everything. No. So let me just set the stage. This is it's 2020 July. As I mentioned, 96% of our revenue was, at jeopardy. We had about, let's call it 18,000 customers, and probably literally 15,000 of them were calling us. Both hotels were shutting down, and it was so bad that we couldn't even get someone to return our phone calls because there was no one there. And then on the event side, everyone was calling up saying, "Oh, my events are canceled. If you can't give me virtual, then we want to go somewhere else." So it was a difficult time. I think a lot of organizations in this room went through a lot of difficulty. So we weren't certainly alone in that situation. But during that time, when we were pivoting and when we did this in July, we came out with our virtual. So the whole company kind of aligned behind one thing. Yeah. Survival tends to do that when it gets everyone aligned on one goal. And so basically for the next 5-6 months, we developed our virtual product. And then the first time we really used it was at it's called Cvent Connect, which is our user conference. But the difference is, and just to give you some background, in 2019, we had about 4,500 people in Vegas and maybe 200 people online or 300. In 2020, we had 52,000 people sign up for our 2-day virtual conference because I think as one of the market leaders, a lot of people were looking to us and say, hey, what are you doing? How are you pulling this off? And so we launched the product. We had never done more than I think at that point, 1,100 person event. And so we launched it in front of 52,000 people. And it really for us was kind of landing on the moon because in front of everyone, if you didn't do well and your product went down, then your best customers, your prospects, everyone would see it. Fortunately, it went fine and the 2 days went off, but it was, again, a defining moment for us to take that risk of launching it.
So to stay on this moment a little bit, you have all these hotels shutting down, people needing to go virtual. You have these long-term contracts that I think looking at your revenue flow, you actually did okay during the pandemic. It wasn't as much of a bad drop as you did. Those must have been tough conversation with those clients, right? They're saying, you have me in this contract, but we can't do any events. Talk to me a little bit about those conversations.
These are tough questions you're asking. So we did have a lot of clients in multi-year contracts. Mm-hmm. And so what we did is we had the same issue in 2001 and 2008. And basically what we always like to work with our customers. We tend to look at things in a 10-year view. So we're not trying to get revenue for a year or two. We really look at it from a 10-year, 15-year view. So what we did with our customers, because they were hurting, both in cash flow as well as the contracts they signed, we generally just extended them. We said, hey, listen, if we cut if we cut back your commitments, if we do this for you, if you can extend the contract so you're in it for the long term, we are in for the long term, and together it's a better partnership. And that's what we did, and it worked out really well because a lot of organizations, especially our third-party event planning organizations, we have a lot of customers like that. So they're business, they're entrepreneurs running their own businesses, and they can range from 2 people. I'm sure there's obviously large ones like American Express or Meritz, but most of them are kind of small businesses. Yep. And so those are the ones in particular that were hurting. And so in associations and nonprofits, when you start looking at them, and then even corporate. So at the end, we worked out a partnership where we said, hey, if you invest in this long term, we'll help you in the short term. And that's the kind of win-win situation because we were hurting also. But I think that starts telling you, defining you as an organization. Mm-hmm. How do you think? Because a lot of organizations, weren't in the position to do that or just didn't do it. And I think that, built a really long-term relationship with our clients.
Okay, well done on that. Virtual, is that still important to Cvent? Do you have any sort of notion of how important it is?
So let me give you my view of why I think virtual is so important. And I didn't quite answer your question about the golden age. So in July of 2020, when I said it's the golden age of events, everyone in the industry thought I was crazy because we're in the middle of the pandemic, everything's shutting down. And the reason I thought it was a golden age is because it accelerated technology. It accelerated what I thought in the long term again was where the business is going, which is a combination of in-person, virtual, and hybrid, and so forth. And so getting back to where we think virtual is here to stay. I think all of organizations that are here are using virtual to some capacity. Look, nothing beats in person. Breaking bread, looking someone in the eye, and shaking their hand is worth, more than a virtual can do. And I would actually, if I had to put a number, generally I think it's about a 3 to 5x more impact on in-person versus virtual. But having said that, it has the right place, like in a webinar where it's a couple hours. What we've learned is it can't be 2 days. Once you get over a few hours, it starts getting difficult or more difficult. But the point is that it is here to stay. It is a key element of a marketing program. So when you look at we call it total event program, webinar, virtual, hybrid, they're still very powerful. I'll give you our Cvent Connect, and I'll show what virtual has done. Yeah. So I mentioned that we had about 4,500 at our peak in 2019 in person. So we just did our last event in San Antonio. We had about 4,000 people, and wow, that's pretty impressive. So we had about 4,000 people there, but then we had about 5,000 or 6,000 virtually. Yeah. So with that 10,000, what that does is it allows you to invest more money. It allows you to put more energy into the event because you're getting in front of 10,000 people. Now, there's ones that are virtual. They're not as engaged, certainly during the 3 days. But what it does allow you to do is to put more money into your total event program because that event generated 10,000 customers and prospects to look at it. So imagine at your organization, if you get 10,000 versus 4,000, yep, your C-suite is going to pay more attention to it because it has a higher impact. And so the whole point is that with virtual and hybrid, it is absolutely not only here to stay, it has made the power and strength of events more powerful because you're able to reach a larger audience. So it's here to stay, and it's been really good for our industry, and I still believe we're in the golden age.
Do you have any idea in terms of what it's worth to Cvent in terms of your business, the virtual?
The virtual? So look, virtual did spike. As everyone knows, it has been going down. I think all virtual companies are going down. It probably represents about, in terms of attendees, virtual attendees, it's probably in the 10 to 15, 20% range, something around that area. Probably closer to 10 to 15% range. So it's still a core part. We have a new product in that area that we're doing, because webinars, I think what happens is that all virtual companies went from doing virtual events, and they're all kind of pivoting to, let's call it virtual webinars, or more like half-day events.
Yep.
And that's, again, a staple thing that's been around since before the pandemic, and everyone was using it. They just didn't quite classify it as an event.
Yep.
And now I think everyone is classifying it. So, but I think it's going to continue. But I do think hybrid events are still very powerful, and they will continue, because not everyone can come to New York and come to an event like this when you have great content.
Well, thank you. Acquisitions. Let's jump into that. I think I counted at least 18, maybe more. You acquired 4 companies this year already. Here's a few of the people that you've acquired over the years. Reposit and Splash, I believe you're actually meeting with them today for the first time face-to-face. Right?
Yeah, that's
another reason of you.
Another thing with virtual, when you have virtual events.
Yeah. What's next? What opportunities are you looking at? I know you're always looking at opportunities, but is there anything in particular that you're looking at next?
Let me give you a couple thoughts, though. So just as a company, we didn't do an acquisition for the first decade. We were kind of what I call homegrown. And there's a saying I say, which is grow your tree trunk straight. Make sure you get your foundation, your culture.
And you didn't go international for a long time?
We didn't go, as you know, we've talked about it. We didn't go international, until you get a certain size. For us, is once you hit 100 million, you go international. We used to say that it's just as sexy to sell in Buffalo as it is in Paris.
Yep.
And which is trying to be really good at what you do and then expand. So same thing with acquisitions. We built our business organically, and then we started doing acquisitions once you built a good foundation. So having said that, we really haven't done acquisitions in 4.5 years.
Okay.
So in 4.5 years, we really haven't done, we did kind of the last one really was in July of 19. And then we kind of, we did a couple small ones that were very small.
Show Flow, Venue Directory, I think.
Yeah, those are exactly right. Those are the two, very small compared to what we normally do. But basically now we've now acquired a bunch of companies.
Yep.
And the reason why is because they're best in class at what they do. For us, we're agnostic. What we're in a good position of is we know what our customers tell us what they like. We listen to them. And when they say, hey, this is a product I like, and when we hear 20 customers say we like this product and it makes sense, then we want to do something that makes our customers happy. So we acquire, and then we integrate them with our system. And we're agnostic, meaning if they have a better product, then we're going to take that product.
Yep.
And so kind of going forward, acquisitions is something we're going to continue to do, because what we care about is solving customer pain points, having data kind of seamlessly come together, and we think we can bring a lot of value to our customers by doing them.
Okay. When you buy a company, I mean, of course, you're buying the technology, you're buying the client base, you're buying the team. There's lots of different components to that. How often does the plan that you had when you bought the company kind of come to fruition? Because sometimes you sunset companies, sometimes you keep people, you don't. Does that normally work out how you thought it was going to work out?
Look, there's a lot to learn. There's an HBS study that says that 80% of all M&A fails. Mm-hmm. They say a lot of executives like to do it because they like to, acquire and just grow. Yeah. I'd like to say we're different. We're very thoughtful. Like I said, for 4.5 years, we really didn't do any. We had a lot of pressure to do it because all our competitors were doing it. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of companies that were buying 4, 5, 6 and big ones. We resisted the urge because we were still getting our foundation straight. As a company, we were still working through the virtual, and the last thing you want to do when you kind of have a messy place is it's almost like you're still working on your own house, and then you buy a vacation home when you can't even get your core house in place, and that's what we were doing. And so I think, kind of when we buy a company, because we're so thoughtful, we look at a lot of companies before we acquire, and then, we've learned a lot in buying so many companies, and that they don't always work. Sometimes you buy a company, and once you get under the hood, look, the biggest problem, the challenge we have when we buy a company is they're not built for scale, and their security is not built for scale. And, and so our standards are higher because of our clientele. The Fortune kind of 500 expect a certain amount. So when we go in there, that's where we're usually doing a lot of work to clean them up, to make sure they have the right infrastructure. But having said that, we've had a pretty good track record. That's why we're continuing to do them. And I would say that we have a strategy going in, and sometimes, most of the times, is to get the product and get their. We like buying companies because they have good products. Like we bought a company called Jiffle Now just now, and they have great lead capture. We bought a company called iCapture that has, or I'm sorry, their lead capture. Then we bought a company called Jiffle Now that does lead capture. We believe they both were best in class.
Yep.
And so Splash, who we just acquired about a week ago,
yep.
That's based here in New York, as you mentioned, we believe they're very strong in corporate marketing. And so we try to buy best in class. And what we have a benefit we have is we just listen to all our customers, many of the people in the room, and we ask them what companies they work with, what they like, where we're not strong, and then we just either develop it internally, which is what we mostly do, but we also acquire because we can't be everywhere.
Okay. Question about innovation, but I'm going to kind of paraphrase that and stick to my questions here. AI. We can't have a technology session without talking a little bit about AI.
Sure.
You have some AI products. You have your AI writing assistant that is kind of part of all of your systems, but you haven't advertised AI and Cvent in a big way. Is Cvent where it wants to be in terms of AI?
The answer is absolutely no. We have a long ways to go, like most companies. We've heavily embraced it. We have about 200 people kind of focused on AI initiatives. We have what we call an AI council. So all divisions come together and share best practices on what they're doing. But look, AI is still a very new technology. Or it's not even a technology. And the reason we don't push it out there, because a lot of companies are changing their names to kind of indicate that they're AI. Our view is that AI is just the way you do business. It's just kind of like leveraging the internet and calling yourself, .com, like Cvent.com, but the internet is just the way business is done. So our view is that AI is going to be fluid. It's in everything you do. So that's kind of number one. Number two, we are investing heavily in it because, again, if you just focus on the customer, for a customer, it's going to do a massive amount in terms of helping them be more efficient. It's going to help them with data. It's certainly going to help us serve them with chatbots, or it's going to help us in letting them write better content, better emails. There's so many areas. But look, AI is still unproven in the sense where, there's the Jeffrey Moore curve or the Gartner curve of where it is. And so, there's a lot of hype.
Yep.
And, I'll give you guys a very inside scoop with technology. So we're using Microsoft Azure. And when I asked our tech team, we had a leadership retreat just last week, what percentage increase in efficiency have you gotten so far? And we have some real people that are really dedicated to it. And generally, it's about 5%. That's it right now. A lot of people thought, I thought developers will develop fast. You've read articles that you're not going to need technology developers in the future because AI is going to do it. I can't tell you what's going to happen 10 years from now, but I can tell you right now, for us, we have about 1,400 technology people. It's giving us about a 5% lift, but it's going to grow every year. So I'm very bullish on it. But the point is, it's still early innings.
Compounding interest, hopefully.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But really what the benefit isn't just the efficiency. The benefit is that you can use that time to develop other things, and the code is cleaner, and it's more scalable as you get new people. But the point is we're still early innings, and that's just one example.
Okay.
But our industry is going to be forever changed, but it's going to take a little bit more time.
And you think it's the kind of thing that you'll acquire to get better at it, or you're going to focus on developing internally?
Well, I think all companies need to. It's going to be part of your core of who you are. You have to be. We're a tech company. But certainly when we look at companies, that is something that you might want to infuse that DNA into your organization. That's what some people say.
Yep.
So that's something we would consider. But with the way we look at it, it's just a core competency that everyone, it's not just tech people, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in sales, whether you're in events, whatever you're in, AI is going to become a large part of doing your job. And if you're a leader within it, you have to embrace it.
Part of what you do.
It's going to be part of what you do.
What about the personalized experience? We talk a lot in tech about this idea of having this personalized experience, and I'm kind of seeing the personalized experience as almost like a dating app. Right? When are we going to go to an event and have an app that's really powerful, really easy to use, great user experience, but can give you really good recommendations of exhibitors, people to meet, content to watch? I don't think we're quite there yet. You might disagree, but when are we going to get there?
Look, this matchmaking, as you call it,
Matchmaking
is
in different ways,
yeah,
right? Different
is stuff that people are working on. It is going to get more and more intelligent. It's all about what data the attendees put in there in order to match, right? And so it's something that I think will happen.
Okay.
But what we really need to do is make sure we collect data. Now that data isn't just necessarily for this event. The data could be on multiple events they've gone to, so you're collecting patterns of
Is that
behavior.
a problem though? Because some companies really resist that, right? They don't want to share that data across different.
Correct. I mean, so for example, for us would have to be contained within an organization. So let's say Skift was a client, it'd be all the Skift events. We never leverage, let's say if Mary came to this event, but she'd been to another event, we would never leverage that. It's up to the organization to build that profile. But I think as you build that profile, people feel more comfortable and they're saying, hey, if I release this data about myself, it will actually help me meet other people.
Yep.
I think then you'll start having that. So that kind of stuff isn't as difficult as people think. It just comes down to what data you collect from them to be able to match them.
So are you saying then that only the enterprise clients will be able to access that kind of tool?
No. Anyone can access it. But if you, for example, pretend this was the only event you did.
Yep.
Then whatever information you collected on their interests or from last year if they attended, you could use that data. That would be it. But of course, the more you collect on that individual, the more you can match what they're interested in.
And it's about the individual data. The individual data, that's really what's going to make it smart.
Yeah, I mean, you can also look at aggregate data to kind of predict behavior. But if you're trying to make it more personal matchmaking, which really makes these kind of events, besides content, it's obviously the networking.
Yep.
It really makes them more effective and people want to come back because they hopefully get a lot more out of the business or out of the event. So that's what I think will happen.
Excellent. I want to touch on the Cvent supplier network. It's about a third of your business, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Yeah. You have 125,000 planners. Some are in the room. They book $16 billion of business in 300,000 properties. Impressive numbers. You don't get involved in contracting. You don't charge commissions to the planners or to the deals, right? You see yourself as the Google of event sourcing, right? How are you going to grow this market? Because I'm seeing a lot of opportunity there, but you don't want to jump into that moment. How are you going to grow the Cvent supplier network?
Well, there's two things. Still, there's a lot. We this year we'll do almost close to 18 billion in sourcing on an annual basis. So we still think there's a lot. It's still I would say it's probably 15-20% of the people are using a tool for sourcing. They might use one event, but when I talk about their total event program.
Yep.
So there's plenty of room to grow, number one. Number two, the reason we did that model was we wanted to disrupt the industry, which is give it free to the planner, give it free to the hotel, and if they're getting value, they can buy basically ads. But we really moved from that. So just to give you an example, 50% of our revenue now comes from software. So what we do is we provide tools that allow the hotelier to do their job easier because there's a shortage of hoteliers. It allows them to collaborate with the planner. But having said that, I think the way we're going to grow it is just kind of doing what we're doing. We're leveraging AI to let planners find venues easier, but then having the meeting plan, or the hoteliers respond. And give you an interesting number. If let's say you do, we every year, I should say, hoteliers on Cvent respond to 3 to 5 million RFPs. Because imagine you send an RFP to 8 to 10 hotels. There's 10 hotels responding to that.
Yep.
So let's call it 5 million RFPs. So just to process the RFPs that the planners send to them is a difficult thing. So just to help automate that using AI to respond, and you as a planner get some more personalized response and a quicker response. But the volume that's coming through is think of all the energy it takes to respond to that RFP by the hoteliers. So there's a lot of neat things that we're doing that we're trying to make it better for the planner, but then also help and automate more for the hotelier.
Okay, we're almost out of time.
Yep.
Last question. 25 more years, do you see yourself ever stepping away from Cvent?
That's a great question, of course. At some point, it's been our 25th year anniversary is actually this month. Okay. So it's been an exciting 25 years. Look, I don't, I think a lot of our leadership, we don't do it for the money. We do it because we love it. It's our passion. I don't have any other skill set anymore except how to run an event technology company. But look, I plan to stay here as long as I can make a positive impact on our industry, our clients, and our company. I plan to continue doing it. And a lot of people will always ask, why do you keep doing it? It's simple. It's fun, it's interesting, I'm passionate about it, and probably one of the most interesting things is to watch clients and employees evolve. Over 25 years, when we recruited an employee out of college, and now I see them as vice president. And so there's nothing else I find more interesting. So I'm going to continue as long as the company will continue to have me, and then of course as I can make impact.
You're going to be at IMEX. I always see you at IMEX.
I'm going to be at IMEX.
You're one of the few tech CEOs that's actually at the booth meeting people. So I look forward to seeing you.
Nothing better than meeting your customers and listening to them.
Okay.
Well, thanks for your time. Thank you all.